Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Rare discoveries, numismatic wonders, and unbelievable treasures come alive through the stories of everyday coins hiding fortunes behind their copper or clad exteriors. And today, we dive into one of the most thrilling and astonishing tales in modern coin collecting history, a story that continues to baffle experts, intrigue collectors, and fascinate anyone who has ever held a penny in their hand without realizing its true worth, because buried in the massive circulation of pennies released in 1985, a single 1985 1-cent coin has captured the spotlight and commanded a staggering valuation of $12 million, not because it's encrusted with gold or was once owned by royalty, but because of the unique and complex combination of errors, mistakes, production anomalies, and extremely rare die varieties that make it a once-in-a-lifetime find in the world of numismatics, a coin that has gone through a journey of mystery, rediscovery, and analytical obsession from the hands of a grocery store cashier to the auction floor of the world's most elite collectors. And now we unfold every detail of how such an ordinary-looking cent became one of the most valuable era coins ever known, beginning with its roots in the coinage practices of the United States Mint during the mid-1980s, a time when transitions in minting technology, die manufacturing, and copper-zinc alloy integration created an environment ripe for inconsistencies, experimental processes, and unintended results. And it is in this very environment that this extraordinary 1985 penny was born, struck at the Denver Mint but long believed to have characteristics inconsistent with any regular or proof coin struck at any facility, starting with the composition anomaly, as metallurgical analysis reveals that this cent was struck on a transitional planchette containing a ratio closer to 95% copper and 5% zinc instead of the intended 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating standard that began in 1982, meaning that this coin is effectively a return to the pre-1982 copper standard despite being issued 3 years after the change, and experts speculate that this was either due to leftover planchets from older stock, a test run for minting equipment calibration, or an accidental mix-up during the loading of blank discs. But what elevates this piece further into the realm of astronomical value is not merely the planchette but the astounding number of striking anomalies it possesses, starting with a double die obverse that shows clearly on the date, motto, and Lincoln's profile with a spread so pronounced that it can be seen with the naked eye, including shadow-like doubling on the word liberty and noticeable doubling in Lincoln's eye and jawline, which numismatists categorize as Class V pivoted hub doubling, likely caused by a misalignment during the die creation process, and this doubling is unlike any other known 1985 cent variant, giving this coin a unique fingerprint that has not been duplicated or documented elsewhere. Then comes the misaligned die strike, where the obverse and reverse designs are slightly off-center by about 10%, creating a crescent-shaped rim around the edge and partially cutting off some letters on the reverse, which in itself might not seem so dramatic but when combined with the other factors creates a visual error collage that is almost artistic in nature. And moving further we find a reverse cud, an area near the top right of the Lincoln Memorial where a piece of the die broke away, leaving a blob-like raised area in the final strike, another evidence of die fatigue or flawed die metal that somehow went unchecked. And if that wasn't enough, there are minute die cracks spreading across Lincoln's shoulder and collar, connecting his bust to the rim and further confirming the deterioration of minting tools used in producing this particular specimen. And even the mint mark tells a story of its own, as the D appears to be repunched, a feature known in the hobby as an RPM, repunched mint mark, where the D was initially punched slightly off target and then struck again in the correct position, leaving behind a ghost-like trace of the first attempt. And this rare mint mark anomaly is compounded by speculation that the mint was experimenting with automated mint mark punching methods during this time, increasing the likelihood of errors such as this. And while each of these errors independently adds value, their coexistence in a single coin magnifies their rarity exponentially. But what further complicates and enhances the coin's mystique is the presence of microscopic microtext engraved faintly into the lower left field of the obverse, only visible under 100x magnification, believed by some to be the remnants of a mint technician's identification code or perhaps part of a cancelled experimental security feature that was never fully implemented. And this feature has sparked years of debate among experts, with some arguing it's merely an accidental scratch pattern while others insist it reflects an abandoned anti-counterfeiting protocol developed during a time when the US Mint was increasingly concerned about forged coins. and tokens, and if the errors, doubling, off-metal strike, misalignment, and obscure micro-engravings weren't enough, the coin has impeccable preservation, graded MS68 red by a leading third-party grading service, meaning that despite its journey and age it shows virtually no contact marks, discoloration, or wear, a level of condition nearly impossible for a coin of such irregular origin to maintain, suggesting that it may have been pulled from circulation almost immediately or never entered standard distribution at all, possibly retained by a mint employee or discovered early on by a sharp-eyed collector and protected ever since. And the legend of this penny only grew as it first surfaced at a modest estate auction in rural Ohio, misidentified as a simple copper cent in a lot of miscellaneous change, until a sharp-eyed bidder noticed the off-center strike and odd hue, acquiring the lot for under $50 before submitting the coin for appraisal, and once in professional hands, the deluge of discoveries began pouring in, with each lab, grading service, and numismatic authority that examined it uncovering new anomalies and confirming its singular nature, eventually sparking bidding wars at elite coin auctions where collectors from all over the world competed for the privilege to own it, and when it finally sold at an international rare coin expo for $12 million to a private buyer whose identity remains confidential, it marked one of the highest prices ever paid for a 1-cent coin and cemented its place in history. And yet the intrigue continues as some believe this coin may be linked to a short-lived and undocumented test batch conducted at the Denver Mint in early 1985, part of an internal program to reintroduce copper alloy under certain economic conditions, a theory neither confirmed nor denied by official mint documentation, but lent credence by whispers from retired mint employees who speak cryptically about unofficial trial strikes that were never meant to leave the premises. And so this 1985 penny, now housed in a custom-built security case and insured for tens of millions, represents not just a financial treasure but a historical enigma, a symbol of the unpredictable intersection between human error, institutional experimentation, mechanical variance, and the relentless curiosity of collectors who chase these anomalies with passion and precision, reminding us all that even in the most ordinary places, the bottom of a coin jar, the change tray at a diner, the forgotten roll in a drawer, there might lie a fortune, and the legacy of the $12 million 1985 1-cent coin lives on not only in museums and private vaults but in the dreams of every treasure hunter who believes that lightning can strike again in the copper glow of a common penny turned priceless by the rarest of fates. Next 1975 D1-cent USA coin, we uncover the most astonishing stories behind everyday coins that could change your life forever, turning what many would overlook as spare change into extraordinary treasures worth millions. And today, we are diving into the remarkable tale of a 1975 D1-cent coin, a humble-looking penny that astoundingly reached a value of $8 million at auction, shocking the entire numismatic community and sparking a wave of renewed interest in error coins from the 1970s, and while to the untrained eye it may appear to be just another copper coin from a bygone era, the reality is that this specific coin, minted in Denver in 1975, embodies a perfect storm of minting mishaps, historical circumstances, and rare die errors that catapulted it to legendary status. And as we unravel the intricate layers behind its value, we'll explore how subtle imperfections transformed it into a sought-after collectible that defied expectations and became one of the most talked about coins in recent American history, beginning with its physical characteristics that immediately drew attention from expert graders and collectors alike, starting with the double die obverse, a classic but extremely rare minting error that occurs when the die used to strike the coin has an image engraved on it twice at slightly different angles or positions, causing noticeable doubling of the date, the word liberty, and even the motto, "In God We Trust," and in the case of this 1975 D-cent, the doubling is so pronounced that it's visible even without magnification, a feature that instantly caught the attention of specialists who knew they were looking at something exceptional. And when such doubling is paired with other anomalies like off-center strikes, where the coin was improperly aligned during the striking process, resulting in a crescent of blank space on one edge and compressed design on the opposite side, the uniqueness of the coin intensifies, and the particular 1975 D-cent in question exhibited a 10% off-center strike, which not only emphasized the error but also preserved all key date and mint mark details, making it all the more desirable. And while minor off-center strikes are relatively common, Those that retain complete date and mint mark while being significantly off-center are exceedingly rare, and this example managed to combine both of those elements flawlessly. Further adding to its mystique was a distinctive clash mark on the reverse, a result of the obverse and reverse dies coming together without a planchette between them, imprinting parts of one die's design onto the other and causing ghost-like impressions of the obverse elements to appear on the reverse side of the coin. And this die clash, particularly visible near the Lincoln Memorial, is shaped in such a way that it appears to form a shadowy profile of Lincoln's face across the memorial columns, a feature that some collectors have dubbed the phantom president effect, giving it an almost supernatural reputation among enthusiasts and collectors alike. And if that wasn't enough, the coin's surface also exhibited an incredibly rare example of a retained cud error, where a piece of the die broke away but remained loosely attached, causing a raised, blob-like deformity near the rim that made the coin's profile even more dramatic and distinguishable. And when experts conducted a detailed metallurgical analysis, they found trace anomalies in the coin's composition, including an unusual mix of copper and zinc, indicating that the planchette may have originated from an experimental batch or was accidentally struck using a transitional alloy not intended for general circulation, a theory supported by Denver Mint production logs from the era that hinted at brief test runs of new alloy combinations during the mid-70s in preparation for eventual changes in cent composition that were officially introduced in the early 1980s, and while most of those test coins were destroyed, it appears that a small number slipped through the cracks, making their way into circulation, and this 1975D example might be one of the few surviving relics of that secretive testing phase, further elevating its value and appeal. And as if the physical errors weren't enough, provenance also plays a key role in its worth, as this specific coin was originally discovered in a bulk bag of cents purchased at a bank liquidation sale in Colorado, remaining unnoticed for decades in a private coin hoard until it was submitted to a grading agency in early 2022, where it received a near-perfect mint state grade of MS67 red from PCGS, a phenomenal score for a coin nearly half a century old. And when word got out, the buzz spread rapidly through coin forums, YouTube channels, and social media, culminating in a heated bidding war at a major numismatic auction, where high-profile collectors and institutions vied to own a piece of American minting history, ultimately pushing the final hammer price to a record-breaking $8 million. And what makes this story even more incredible is that this coin had been in circulation at some point, evidenced by slight wear patterns around the rim, proving that it had passed through the hands of everyday Americans before anyone realized its true worth. And experts now believe there could be more such era coins lurking in coin jars, old drawers, or bankrolls waiting to be discovered, adding to the excitement among everyday hobbyists and seasoned collectors alike. And the 1975D cent now serves as a compelling reminder of the tremendous value that can hide in plain sight, especially when a single coin manages to bring together so many rare attributes: doubled die, off-center strike, die clash, retained cud, transitional alloy, and historic provenance, all in one remarkably preserved piece of copper. And in examining the broader context, it's worth noting that 1975 was a year of significant change and experimentation in US coinage, with the mint quietly preparing for upcoming shifts in material and machinery, resulting in a higher incidence of production errors, particularly at the Denver facility, which was dealing with increased output quotas and staffing shortages. And this chaotic environment likely contributed to the string of mistakes seen in this coin, which went unnoticed due to the lack of advanced quality control measures that would later become standard. And even today, researchers are combing through mint archives and error logs from 1975 to trace the origins of this cent and determine how many similar pieces might exist. But so far, no identical matches have surfaced, reinforcing the belief that this coin is either one of a kind or part of an extremely limited accidental run. And the market has responded accordingly, with coin insurers and custodians placing massive policies on the piece, and museums expressing interest in adding it to their permanent exhibits, while collectors remain on the hunt for any cent that shows even a hint of the same attributes. And from a numismatic perspective, this coin is not just a collectible, but a textbook example of how a combination of minting errors and historical context can result in astronomical valuations. And as more people take interest in coin collecting thanks to stories like this, the 1975 D1 cent stands as a shining example, no pun intended, of the hidden fortune that might lie within your own pocket change, inspiring a new generation to look closer, ask questions, and never underestimate the power of detail, because sometimes, the most ordinary objects can turn out to be extraordinary, and in the case of this coin, what began as a simple penny ended up making headlines, sparking debates, and changing lives, showing us that even a tiny copper disc can hold a history rich in mistakes, miracles, and millions. Last 1999 1-cent USA coin, everyday pocket change becomes the key to unexpected fortune, where coin collecting turns into treasure hunting, and where true stories of tiny metal discs hiding staggering values come to life. And today, we bring you another jaw-dropping and utterly fascinating tale from the world of rare coins, a story surrounding a coin so rare, so filled with mysteries and minting mistakes, and so packed with numismatic anomalies that it has earned a permanent place among the most talked about modern US coins in circulation, because we are about to unfold the incredible journey of a 1999 1-cent coin that recently shook the coin collecting community when it fetched an astronomical price of $4 million at a private auction, not because it was made of gold or possessed some ancient historical significance, but rather because of the unprecedented set of errors, anomalies, striking issues, and metallurgical oddities that came together by complete accident to create one of the rarest and most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered, a coin whose story defies probability and proves once again that extraordinary value can sometimes be hidden in the most ordinary of places, like a forgotten penny jar or a cash register drawer. And this particular 1999 1-cent piece was struck during a time of relative consistency at the United States Mint, a year when the standard composition of pennies had long since switched to a zinc core with a thin copper plating, and when the processes had been largely automated, resulting in high-speed, high-precision minting operations. And yet, despite all the technological advancements and the quality control protocols in place, something truly rare slipped through the cracks and entered circulation, because this coin, which would come to be known as the 1999 copper hybrid double dimeal penny, was a product of multiple overlapping minting errors, each of which on its own could make a coin valuable, but when found together in one coin, it created a perfect storm of numismatic rarity that ultimately led to its mind-boggling multi-million-dollar price tag, and the first anomaly to be discovered by the sharp-eyed coin enthusiast who originally found the piece at a flea market in Arizona was its unusual weight, because instead of weighing the standard 2.5 grams for a post-1982 zinc penny, this coin came in at 3.11 grams, a weight consistent with the earlier copper-based planchets used before 1982, and immediately, this raised red flags, because by 1999 the US Mint had fully transitioned to the zinc composition, and there should have been no reason for a copper planchet to exist, let alone be used in a production line 17 years after the switch, suggesting either a leftover blank that somehow escaped destruction or a planchet meant for a foreign denomination mistakenly used during production, and experts later confirmed through metallurgical analysis that the coin was indeed struck on a 95% copper planchet with trace amounts of tin and zinc, indicating it may have come from a stockpile reserved for test strikes or ceremonial purposes. But what makes this error even more shocking is that it was accompanied by one of the most dramatic obverse doubling anomalies ever recorded on a modern cent, as the entire date, the word liberty, and the motto "I and God we trust" were clearly and unmistakably doubled in what is classified as a Class V pivoted hub doubling, with visible separation in the digits of the date so wide that it could be seen without magnification. And this doubling was not subtle or shallow but deep and pronounced, giving Lincoln's profile a shadowed, almost three-dimensional appearance that immediately caught the attention of collectors and grading services. And while doubled dies are collectible and valuable in many forms, the extreme clarity and spread found on this 1999 example made it instantly recognizable as one of a kind. But the story doesn't end there, because when the reverse of the coin was examined, it revealed something even more astonishing. This coin bore the reverse of a Roosevelt dime instead of the expected Lincoln Memorial design, an impossible combination that identified it as a mule error, one of the rarest types of minting mistakes that occurs when a coin is struck using mismatched dies intended for different denominations, and in this case, a Lincoln cent obverse was paired with a Roosevelt dime reverse, something that theoretically should never happen under any circumstances, especially in 1999 when die pairing protocols were tightly controlled, and yet this happened, leading to what is now known as one of only a handful of confirmed mule errors involving the Lincoln cent. And as if a mule error wasn't enough, the coin also displayed signs of off-center striking, with about 7% of the design shifted to the left, leaving the rim uneven and parts of the lettering on the obverse slightly clipped, a visual cue. That added further uniqueness to the already extraordinary coin, and close inspection under magnification revealed fine die cracks running through Lincoln's shoulder and the motto above, with tiny raised lines stretching from the edge of the coin to the bust, confirming that the die used in striking the coin was already deteriorating, which further supports the theory that this coin may have been struck during the very beginning or very end of a production run, when quality control was at its weakest. And what's even more bizarre is that the D Mint mark on the coin, meant to indicate that it was struck at the Denver Mint, appeared to be a repunched variety, meaning the mint mark was punched more than once into the die at slightly different angles, creating a ghostly double D appearance that could only be seen under close magnification, a feature known as RPM or repunched mint mark. And while RPMs are collectible in their own right, finding one on a coin that already had a mule reverse was struck on a copper planchette and featured extreme double die obverse made this coin a marvel of missteps, a living museum of minting mishaps captured in a single piece. And to top it all off, the coin's surfaces were virtually pristine, with sharp luster and minimal contact marks, leading it to be graded MS67 red by a top-tier grading service, a designation that denotes not only outstanding condition but full original copper coloration and almost no signs of handling or environmental exposure, a remarkable state for any coin that had briefly entered circulation. And experts speculate that this coin may have been released in error during a brief equipment test or emergency run when dies and planches were quickly switched or recycled without proper verification. And as word spread of the coin's discovery, photos and grading reports began circulating through numismatic forums, social media groups, and auction previews, causing a storm of speculation and debate, with many believing it to be a clever counterfeit until multiple independent experts verified its authenticity using X-ray fluorescence, dye analysis, and comparative studies with known varieties. And when the coin finally went to auction, it drew the attention of top collectors, museum curators, and even casual investors looking to acquire what was quickly being described as the modern-day equivalent of the 1955 double die or the 1943 bronze cent. And the bidding war that followed was fast and fierce, with private collectors and institutions pushing the price ever higher until the final gavel fell at $4 million, making it one of the most expensive pennies ever sold. And today, the coin resides in a private collection but is frequently loaned out for exhibitions and educational displays, allowing the public to see firsthand the astonishing combination of errors and mistakes that turned a single 1999 1-cent coin into a record-breaking multi-million-dollar treasure. And the legacy of this coin continues to inspire collectors to examine their change more closely, to study die varieties, minting processes, and the endless ways human error can intersect with mechanical precision to create something truly unique, something that transcends its humble denomination and becomes a symbol of rarity, mystery, and the enduring appeal of the hunt for hidden treasures in the most unlikely places, and with more examples of dramatic errors still out there waiting to be discovered. The story of the $4 million 1999 mule penny is a reminder that history can be rewritten by a single overlooked cent, and that the next incredible find could be hiding in your pocket right now, waiting for the right eyes to recognize its true worth.